Hey guys, we are in Mark 11 and John 12 today, which is just such a great story. Like, oh my gosh, guys, I spent like 2 hours this morning in this, and I'm hoping I can keep this short. I'm not going to make this 2 hours, obviously, but there's like, I ended up down this rabbit trail of like Greek translation, original translation for this. Okay, I'm just going to jump in. I got to just jump in. Mark 11. I'm really excited, as you can tell. Verse 9 through 10. So it's the triumphant entry again. Okay, we read this yesterday of Jesus coming in on a donkey, and 9 through 10 stood out to me. How just Jesus was wholly popular for how he made people feel. He was healing, casting out, teaching people, and he was fully and widely popular because of the way he made people feel. He healed, so he was loved. But the moment it didn't feel good, they were gone. Isn't this like the truth? The moment it didn't feel good, it was gone. The faith was gone. It was so shallow. And this is represented in the next parable that he gives us of the fig tree, right? Of this like shallow faith. And man, this is still so true today, right? Our faith is strong. We're Team Jesus. We're all about our faith. And the moment it doesn't feel good, or it contradicts something we want, or the truth we want to pretend works, because if it's not in here, if it's different than what is spoken here, it's not good. It's not good, because he has an order. He has a way of doing it. If we follow the process, it is the best process. But we want to like kind of be like, wow, I mean, I want to take all of it except this little bit because this doesn't make me feel good. And that's not what Jesus is about, right? And that's not where our faith should be. It's only when it feels good, which sets us up for a lot of failure then when life storms blow in and it's this hurricane that you are in the midst of and it doesn't feel good. It's so hard because you can't really cling to it because it's like gone. Your faith is kind of just gone. Like, where are you, Jesus? Do you even exist? Do you even hear me? Do you even see me? All these lies flood in because you've allowed it with it being a feel-good faith. And that's not what this is. That's not what Christianity is. It's for your goodness. It's for your good, for your pulling you into life, pulling you into righteousness, pulling you into the best version of you will ever be. But it isn't a feel-good, right? Do you understand what I'm saying here? So then verse 11, this is where I like went into like a start of a dive here. Verse 11, because all of Mark's writings are immediately. It's like this fast movement. And then I read 11 and it says, and he entered Jerusalem and he went to the temple. And when he looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. And it's like, what is the point of that verse? It's like, I was like, wait, it's always immediately, always so purposeful, always pointed in Mark. And yet there's this verse of like, he came in, went into a temple, looked around and left and went to the next city. And it's like, wait, I have to be missing something here. Like, so I took this pause and I was like, I want to read this Hebrew original, or not Hebrew, Greek, because New Testament's written in Greek, the Greek original text. And I want to understand what Mark's kind of showing here. And what I pulled from it is that this verse looks uneventful, right? At the reading it just across the page. But since all of Mark is immediate, we can see, and this is why it pulled me in, as I'm like, yes, when I read this commentary, I'm like, yes, that's what stopped me, is this stillness. That there's this stillness, that Jesus has this triumphant entry, walks into the temple and assesses and then leaves. It's this intentionality, this stillness, that Jesus is never impulsive. He's always intentional, right? He's, that you see that here, it's this inspection before judgment in the temple. He went in and he kind of viewed it all. And between this and then the uproar he has, which a lot of the other gospels, 2 of the other gospels we saw, he came in this triumphant entry and he just flipped over tables. So it looks like he came marching in there and just flipped it all over. But we actually see Mark here, and there's another one, I think it's Luke. There's 2 that kind of actually allude, the other one alludes to this pause, where this one really made a whole verse out of just the pause. That he comes in, he looks, he assesses, and then he goes back. So this between it is a story of the fig tree. So he actually assesses, goes and teaches disciples this lesson for the fig tree and then goes back in and executes on exactly what he was teaching. And so what we see here is the issue that Jesus is, he sees what is happening, that he pauses, he observes, right? And then he returns with a purpose. And he does the same thing with our sin all the time. Like I see this is the nature of who God is, because I see this throughout my own walk and journey, that he almost pauses and observes. He's not like quick on me every single time I do wrong. Instead, he has this pause and observes, and then he returns and he comes to me, and it's so purposeful, right? It's like, I'm seeing this in a couple different spots. Like, here's what I'm addressing, and here's where I saw it in a couple different spots. So here's how to reshape your thinking so you do all those things a little bit differently to look more like me. Do you understand what I'm saying here? So it's this beautiful order that we see, because God is a God of order, not chaos. This beautiful order we see where he pauses, observes, returns with this purpose, just like he does with us. And it's beautiful, right? Verse 12 is when he's going and he curses that fig tree, how Israel's outward appearance without inward fruit was empty, right? That God desires real fruit. And that's the same for us. He desires real fruit, not just for us to look good on the outside, that your church attendance is good, that you made it every single Sunday. That's not what he's looking for, right? He's looking for that fruit that shows this heart change, this continual growth, right? Verse 15 through 19 is when he goes in and he cleanses this temple, right? And he's flipping things over. And God's presence and worship is about prayer and holiness, right? And openness to all nations is what Jesus is saying here. Not for profit, not for self-gain. He's addressing the heart of the issue. So he left. He taught his disciples that it's about the heart, not the appearance, and then comes in, makes a big scene to tell them, no, it's not about the scene. It's not about the hoops. It's about the heart, that it's not for profit or self-gain, that it's for all nations. It's for prayer. It's for holiness. It's about this relationship is what Jesus is calling them to here. And then in verse 22, Jesus answers them, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to the mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and it does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he said will come to pass, it will be done for him. So faith isn't about believing hard enough. It's about trusting God fully, praying boldly, and living free of unforgiveness, because he addresses that next. So these are the things we see in this section, that it's not about, like I said, this believing hard enough or praying hard enough or fervently enough. It's just full trust in God, praying boldly in that space and getting free from unforgiveness. And I did kind of a deep dive into this section. So here's another Greek deep dive I did. In verse 24, it says, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you will receive it and it will be yours. This verse, I think it's misused a lot, which leads people to see God is broken and fallen because they're asking and God's not doing what they asked. And so you got to really dive when you see these verses and you're like, wait, this doesn't add up to my own experience. Maybe try deep diving with that and take it before the Lord. Be like, if you have a sorrowful thing that you went through, you lost a child, okay? And you're like, I believe God is good, but where was he good here? Take that up with him, okay? So you can read this and be like, man, I've asked for things and you haven't though. And you haven't. And I did believe it to be true and I haven't. What are you like? Just take me deeper in this. I want to understand because this part is confusing. He wants to reveal it to you. You just have to seek, right? If you seek, he shows, he reveals. So in this verse 24, what stuck out to me is is speaking of faith born out of relationship and not self-will. And so I went kind of into depths of, okay, what is the Greek actual words and the meaning behind it? Because for English, we have love a taco and love our husband, and it's not the same type of love. I don't love a hot dog. I don't love hot dogs at all. I don't love a taco like I love my husband. It's two different loves, but we use the same word. In Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic, all the old text, it was very specific. So to ask, there's three different to asks you see through scripture. One to ask is more of a pleading or an entreat. And then another Greek word for it is authoritative and to order someone to do it, to ask. But this one here is Ateo, I think it's pronounced. I have the words of the other ones. I'm not going to try to pronounce them. But this one specifically is that ateo, which is dependency or submission, not demand. So do you understand? Like, this is not saying to demand, like what I ask of the Lord, he didn't do for me. That's a demand, right? Or an order, or thinking we're on the same level, or even a pleading, right? He's not saying that. This to ask, this one right here, or even a request among equals is another one that you see throughout scripture. That's a different Greek word. It's not the same one used here. The one used here, to ask, that says whatever you ask in prayer. So to ask, the word here is dependency or submission, okay? Not demand, dependency or submission. So you have to understand that this is a ask in submission to your will. What you will glorify you most is where the heart is at. And if it be your will, I'm asking this in this submission and coming in this prayer, right? And then this word to pray that's here, that whatever you ask in prayer, this word pray, there's other ones that it's like, that have other meanings, but this one particularly is an intimate communication, alignment, and relationship, which means to move towards God with a vow, desire, or exchange of will. So it is used, this same word for this prayer, for this where prayer is stated here in the Greek text, the word used isn't just like a request. It's this intimate communication, and it's the same one that's used. I love this. This I thought was so cool. It's the same one that's used, because when you go into the Bible Hub and it gives you the Greek and you click on the word that you want to understand it deeper, it gives you other places in the Bible where that exact Greek word is used. And guys, it's the one that is used when Jesus is praying alone on the mountain in Luke 5:16. Also in the Lord's Prayer, you know, the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer that's in Matthew 6:5-9, when he says this is how to pray. This is the same word he uses, the same Greek word. And then early church in Acts 1:14, we also see this same word. It carries the weight and reverence and relational alignment. So do you understand what it's saying here? That this verse isn't about claiming what you want. It's about confidence in what God has already confirmed. Do you see this? Like, this is what it's talking about. This is where it's hard, because English text makes us, and then we put it on top of all the things we experience, and we come up with our own conclusion, and people will go up and preach on this before they really dive into the script of what it's actually saying, these meanings. That it's not manifestation, but union is what it's talking about. That what you brought what you brought before God, where your heart and his heart was conversing on, and you can trust his response. So you have this request you put out, right? This submission request that you put out, that you bring before him, that you speak in conversation with, and that he says his will, and you're obedient to that. So the power of prayer isn't in demanding an outcome. It's aligning your heart with the one who knows best. Saying, I know he knows best, and even if I don't like it, if he says that's what's to come, that's what he desires, I'm going to do it no matter what, right? That it's this verse 24, verse 25 that comes after it, this humility. He says right after that, he says, and whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone. So it's bringing yourself outside of yourself. Does that make sense? It's bringing you outside of yourself. And it's aligning with what he just stated before, that this prayer is not your own emotion, your own point of view, the things you want. That's not what he's talking about here. Just like he's saying here that you're forgiving even if you have anything against somebody else. So like freely forgiving because you submit to God's will and to God's truth and faithfulness and to his final judgment, that he will have the vengeance, that you will freely give, being submissive in both your forgiveness and in your prayers, seeking his will for his direction, and then walking firm in that, okay? So a couple examples I have in this space, and I'm not saying that there is like a magic sauce or a magic way of saying it, because that's not what it's about. Again, hear me in this. It's about your heart aligning with God's will of a submission, right? So like, for instance, my prayer for years for my husband with that church, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, when you become a membership, church membership, it was this fervent prayer for him to change my husband's heart, for him to show him, for this to be something. And then finally, I came to the spot of like, Lord, no, let your will be done. So change me, change him. I want unity. I want to align. You profess unity in the spouse that you are to be united. Show me this. Teach me how, teach me what to pray, teach me, like, I want to submit under this. And then Andrew ended up wanting membership. The same thing happened with my son with cancer when he had cancer. And I was praying this fervently, like, Lord, if we could just touch the end of your cloak, if we could just, and then I got to a spot where I was like, God's will be done. If he had only 8 years, my son was 8 at the time, now he's 10, praise God. At 8 at the time, if you had only 8 years written for this boy, thank you for choosing me. Thank you for giving me 8 years of his breath inside my home. I want you to be glorified most of all. If that is healing, I will shout on the mountaintops that Jesus healed my kid. If it is through a long process of chemotherapy, I will praise you all the same. And if it is through his death, where he gets to go home to you, I will praise you still, no matter what you choose. I want to align with your will, but as a mother, you've called me to pray for my children and for their healing. So that's where my heart's going to be. But know that I will praise you either way. And he healed them. And he says, Anna, your prayers are answered. He is healed. And it's completely gone. It was miraculous. And so this was like through quite a few different things. I mean, this is even reclaimed that when he spoke it, it wasn't my own idea, but he spoke it. And so I just knew that what he said would come about, would be exactly what he had. So I'm walking in this assurance, knowing that he can do all things. And really, I just have to be obedient in it. So it's this submission is what Jesus is talking about here. And that can be sometimes misunderstood. Okay. Lastly, in this chapter, man, I have to break this into 2 videos because I'm already at 17 minutes. Sorry, guys. Lastly, in this chapter, verse 33, just true authority comes from God, not man's approval, bottom line. That if God calls me to something, no man needs to approve me to accomplish it. I'm just going to walk in that, and you can walk in that same boldness. That authority should come from God and God alone. And these Pharisees were really worried about what other people think. Okay, we got to get into 12 here, and I might have to skip over some of my notes for you guys. But chapter 12, verse 3, that Mary anoints him and wipes her hair with her feet. This is actually different than the sinful woman who did it with her tears. It's not the same place. That was in Galilee. This is in, I think, Bethany. Yeah, Bethany. So it's 2 different events. That one was about forgiveness and love. This one here is about preparing Jesus for burial. And he even says that. Verse 4 through 6 was the one that kind of stood out to me because it's Judas who is stealing. And I'm like, man, Jesus knew that he was going to betray him and that he was a thief. He knew his heart. He knew who Judas was. Jesus knew. And yet he still shared meals with him. He still taught him and preached truth to him. He still treated him as his best friends, right? With the other 12. He treated him the same as the other 11. He gave him even authority to heal. And he even washed his feet. This man, he knew that he was not going to change. He knew his hard heart. He knew he was a thief. He knew he was out to eventually reveal or betray Jesus, to betray him. He knew all these things. Yet this shows this mercy towards betrayal. And I'm like, wow, how much can we learn from this? When Jesus says to show love to your enemies, he didn't just tell us that. He walked the walk. He walked the walk. Like, isn't that incredible? Like, man, do I fall short of this, so short of this. And it just pushes me into, okay, thinking through those people who have maybe like been really hurtful in my past, right? Or who are still a constant thorn in my side. My neighbor, she's just so hard to deal with. But bottom line, like, Jesus, it was not, his love was not on their actions, but on him being right before God, loving those who are made in God's image because you love God most. And so not based off of their actions, not changing the definition of love or giving a except when, you know what I mean? But true love, it's just so good. Okay, verse 10 of chapter 12. The spirit of a hard heart, right? That not only were they trying to kill Jesus, but now they're trying to kill Lazarus. And it just shows that when we start to blur the lines or push our own agenda, where's the end? We just saw that in our society, right? We started to blur the lines with homosexuality. And then it became, well, you can become man or woman. And then it became, what is a woman? Then it became, kids can be dogs if they want to be dogs. And then it became like, why don't we let our 6-year-olds have gender changes? And we're seeing the harm of this, right? Of people going to court and being like, I didn't know what I was choosing. I was 8. Why did my parent let me choose this? Because now I have even more of a crisis on my hand. The brokenness, guys, when we blur the lines of truth, it is in here. We see it in our world. Guys, we got to stay firm on these lines, even if we don't like it, even if it doesn't feel good, because we trust God most. We know he made a perfect order because he's the one who designed it, right? That should strengthen our faith. Okay, verse 17, the next one, the Lord does amazing miracles, big and small, to bear witness, right? And our testimonies and God's stories are meant to be shared to bring God glory and show others that he is alive, active, breathing, real God of now. That's important that we're sharing those things. And that's something that I pulled from when he was going through this triumphant entry, and the crowd was sharing about what he did with Lazarus, and it was just spreading this gospel, and it was making these Pharisees very angry. Verse 26 was the next one that stood out to me. How just Christianity, this is where some Greeks seek Jesus, and he tells of, some whoever loves his life will lose it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for all of eternity. If anyone serves me, he must follow me. That whole section. Just Christianity is a lifestyle. I'm always saying this, guys, because it is. It's not a religious label. It shouldn't just be a thought or a belief system, but an actual lifestyle. To serve and to love God is to give up the world and all it tells us we should do, right? And to live for God alone, allowing him to be the one that directs our steps, letting him be the loudest voice in the room. That's important, right? Verse 27, I'm always saying this is important, but all of scripture is important. So I don't apologize for that. I just like the word, I guess. Beautiful and important. 27 is the next one that stood out to me. And this is when the man puts or must be lifted up. He's talking, or son of man. So he's talking about his cross moment that's coming. And this section was beautiful. Like, slow down when you're reading this section 27 through 36, because it is just so powerful and so beautiful. It was hard for me to even put any words to it, because I was basking in it, right? Even with knowing the pain of the cross ahead, Jesus didn't cry out, "Save me." He didn't say that. Instead, he says, "Father, be glorified." Like, that's this heart of submission that I was talking about, guys, that he calls us into. And then verse 30, Jesus didn't need validation, but he let others know it with this proof. God let it know with this proof. God spoke, and Jesus says, "It's not for me. I don't need that validation. I already know God's will." That was for you to have proof that I'm not just making this up, that it is truly God in me, living in me here on earth, through him, that you're going to have salvation. Though I'm walking forward to die for you, to create this bridge, he's trying to show them this proof, because he's just like crying out for them to come near, right? Verse 37, some people, it doesn't matter what you say though, they're just not going to believe. And that's what Jesus was talking about there. And then in 42 here, the hard truth of many, right? That they love the folly and the titles and the status more than they love the Lord. That's what it boils down to, is a love of what you're doing, a love of the title, a love of the status, a love of the position you're in over loving God most. I think that's what really, honestly, if we boil it all down, why we don't give him all our variables, like I talk about in my book, all the choices in our life, is we love these things, and we love what we're doing, and we love control in these spaces more than God. And that's it, like boiled down to the basics, right? So verse 49 was my last one for you guys here. It's for, I have not spoken on my authority, but on the Father who sent me, and has himself given me a commandment, what to say and what to speak. That every word of Jesus, every single word spoken by him was a lifeline. That rejecting it wasn't even rebellion. It's actually self-destruction. So when you reject this word or truth in this word because you don't like what it says, or it doesn't feel good, or it's not what this world is calling, or like, you just feel like maybe that you can take part of this and morph it into what you want. When you think that, it's actually not rebellion, it's self-destruction. Because he created the world purposefully in order, down to like the molecules that make up a human body, down to a blade of grass and the molecules that make those up. It is so intentional, and there's this order and a purpose because he's intentional about all things, every single thing. And so when you reject it and rebel against it, you're actually going into self-destruction. That's why the world's looking like it's looking. It's a self-destruction. He didn't come to condemn it, guys, but to call us out of that darkness, that every word he still speaks, still to this day, throughout here, through my prayer time, what I'm constantly learning, every word he still speaks invites us into truth, invites us into a deeper belief, invites us into coming near him. It's not condemnation. That's not what he sounds like. When you feel this irk of like, oof, I'm doing that wrong, I do need to change it. It's not, when I feel those, it's not a condemnation. He's not like, Anna, shame on you. Like, that's not who he is. That's just not who he is. The enemy talks like that, not God. In my book, I have this parallel of what God sounds like, what Satan sounds like. And it's like the opposites. And you can see clearly, like, you can know then of, oh, this isn't God. This is the enemy. But Lord, what do you want to show me in this, right? And we can push him. We can turn the enemy's plans on the head. We can just flip it right around on him, where what he plans for evil, we make good by bringing it before the Lord, right? Because every word that he speaks is going into truth, is going into life, is going into a deeper faith, a deeper belief, is coming to him as the good father that he is, the shepherd, right? That guides his sheep. And that's what I have for you guys today. We'll see you tomorrow.